going on? It's Landon Remixes here, and it's time for a review of the debut album from Snavs, SS18. Snavs is a future trap DJ and producer from Denmark. His name actually means dirt in Danish. Snavs' real name, Andreas Holdu, first caught my attention about 4 years ago when he was featured on not just one, but 2 remixes on the Pegboard Nerds Uncaged remix package. I absolutely loved that Here It Comes remix he did with Toby Green. I'd even say it's one of my favorite, remixes on Monstercat. I wasn't quite as crazy about his Bad Boy remix, but I guess just the fact that he did 2 of the 4 remixes on the package made me think that Snavs was someone that I should really keep my eye on. Thankfully, moving forward, Snavs did not disappoint. He followed up on those 2 remixes with an absolutely insane original called Time that was released on Monstercat. I'd say it might even be my favorite future trap track ever. Following that release, Holdu saw quite a bit of success, including signings to Spinnin' Records and Yellow Claw's Barong family. Some of you may remember that the last time I talked about Snavs was actually his Barong family EP. I found the tunes on that EP to be exceptionally wild and enjoyable, especially Roar and the Yellow Claw collaboration Jungle Fever. Though since the release of Anarchist, I, for the most part, haven't really paid much attention to Snavs. And that's not necessarily because I thought his music was declining or anything like that, but mostly because he was just focusing on pushing out singles through labels, and I really don't pay attention to single releases that much unless it's Monstercat. Earlier this year though, seemingly out of nowhere, Snavs came back on my radar with news of his debut album. And I'll be honest, I never really expected this project to happen. Snavs never really seemed like an album type artist to me. But regardless, I was still pretty excited for SS18. I mean, most of my memories of Snavs were pretty positive, and I guess you could say I had my expectations set pretty high for this album, but I wasn't really expecting it to blow my mind either. So long story short, when SS18 finally hit streaming platforms and I was able to hear it for the first time, I can't say I was all that thrilled, but I wasn't really disappointed with it either. It's basically what I expected it to be. It's a varied collection of EDM bangers that spans across numerous different subgenres, including electro house, future bass, dancehall, psytrance, and of course Snavs' signature brand of future trap. The album's a pretty solid length with 13 tracks and clocking in at 36 minutes. I didn't feel at all that it overstayed its welcome, and the album's flow is pretty solid as well. It really seems that on SS18, Snavs knows when to pull back and maybe take a bit more of a minimal approach. This album's got a lot of highs and lows, and I'd say in general the lows are just as good, if not better, than the highs. While a lot of EDM albums these days to me feel like just a jumbled mess of tracks with very little rhyme or reason to it, I don't get that feeling at all from SS18. I really feel like Snavs went into this with an album in mind. So yeah, I would say that SS18 is a pretty solid listening experience. However, I do think that this album suffers in a number of different areas. I think my main issue with SS18, especially with it being Snavs' debut album, is that he kind of avoids using it as a means to explore his signature sound and kind of expand on it. Rather, to me, this album feels more like a sampler of what one might hear if they go to any of the major dance music festivals. Songs like Light It Up, the collaboration with Stoltenhoff, especially made me feel this way. I myself have enjoyed some of Stoltenhoff's productions in the past, but Light It Up just sounds like one of the most generic festival songs ever. Like, when I listen to this song, in my mind I can visualize literally any DJ at Ultra Music Festival playing it, and I think that's because year after year, watching festival live streams, I've just heard so many songs that are just like this, and this particular one doesn't have any unique flair or memorable qualities that stick out to me. Elevate is an extremely formulaic festival psytrance song. I'd say it uses just about every single trope of that genre, though it sounds fine, and I think it's really cool that Snavs is expanding his horizons into this genre. Like, anybody could have made this track, and I really wouldn't have been able to tell the difference. Blow Up, the tune with Nonsense, is probably my least favorite song on the entire album. It kind of sounds like their attempt at making something akin to Core by R.L. Grime, which of of course was a big festival hit, except Blow Up sounds 1,000 times more synthetic and uninteresting. Get Away is another one that I felt fit a very specific mold a bit too clearly. Like, if somebody asked me what style of music the YouTube channel Trap Nation promotes, I would literally just send them this song. On another hand though, I would say there are a number of moments on SS18 where Snavs kind of avoided doing his signature sound and it ended up paying off really well. I for one really enjoyed the tune with Zookeepers, Break Up the Sound, even though it sounds like something that Botneck and Snails might have done together a few years ago. The song MSN with Cage goes for an extremely minimal 4 on the floor sound, but those bass frequencies in the song are like absolute ear candy to me. Snavs goes for a little dancehall flair on the song Doña, and I've gotta say this is one of my favorites that the genre has brought in the last few years. I really enjoy the blend of Spanish and English lyrics, and I think the strings during the break sound great and very natural with this style of music. One of the most experimental tunes and one of the biggest surprises on the album for me was the Friends interlude with Fabian Mazur. Based on the songs that I've heard these two do together before, I expected something a lot bigger and bolder out of Friends, but this interlude is surprisingly low-key, with some slow-spoken dialogue that reminded me a lot of the intro on Skrillex and Diplo's Jack U album, and some deep dubstep wobbles toward the end of the track. I also think the song Won't Let Us is pretty fantastic and probably my favorite song on the album. This is clearly a Snavs track and you can hear a lot of his signature sounds in it, but it also has a certain degree of experimentation that I really wish would have spanned across this entire album. It really takes his sound and pushes it forward in a unique and interesting way. Also, this song is like insanely groovy, like one of the grooviest bass tracks I've heard all year. Personally, I would have a really hard time trying not to bob my head to this song. And finally, I would say that the 3 songs that really capture the Snavs sound, 2018, Turn Left, and Lust, are actually pretty solid too. 2018 does a decent job setting the tone for the album, but is also a pretty good track in its own regard. Turn Left I thought was a really fun kind of pop future bass song. I really enjoy the lyrics on this one, which seem to be about wanting someone to just get lost. But then again, some of the vocal licks did strike me as really awkward with that da 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 da. And then of course there's Lust, the album's closer, and although this one isn't necessarily my favorite on the album, I do think it makes for a pretty classic Snavs track. There's a little ticking clock sample, which I'm pretty sure is a callback to Time, and the way that Snavs handles the chord progression in this song actually really impressed me. It's not just like a straight change from chord to chord, it's more of like a shift in pitch. Overall though, I think the song does a really good job of kind of tying the album up in a nice little box by finishing it off with that signature Snavs sound. So yeah, this album certainly could have been improved in a number of different areas, but it is a very cohesive listening experience that does manage to pack a few punches along the way. So for Snavs season 2018, I am feeling a strong 6 to a light 6.5 out of 10. If you haven't listened to this album yet, as always, I have the Spotify link down in the description below, and if you have listened to it, make sure to let me know what you think down in the comments section. If you want to see more content like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We are so close to 4,500 subscribers, it's not even funny. But anyway, I'm Landon Remixes, I hope you guys enjoyed the review, and I'll see you later. Peace.